Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast and your week in IndyCar interview show. Who do we have? I call you an old friend, Will Buxton. You're not physically old, but I haven't had you on my show since 2019. So I think I officially suck. I know. Used to be on this thing all the time.
I'm much older. I'm much older now, mate. How are you, buddy?
I'm super. Yeah, how embarrassing. Been on the show 8 times. All of that between December 23rd, 2016, debut season for the show. This will be something like episode 1,500 and, 80? And you were on first within the first 100, episode 96, 2016 Formula One season review with Will Buxton. I started the stupid show in 2016. So anyways, I'm so happy to not just have you back on the show, but to have a great reason for it. Hey man, we get to play IndyCar together. And you've been dreaming of this. You and I were talking about this, 10, 12, 13, however many years ago. So
2012, mate. That's when we were in Sonoma together. And I came out trackside with you.
That's right. And we went up and photographed and the S's.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And because I was there that weekend because the Speed Channel rights were going at the end of the year. At that point, I hadn't yet had any conversations with NBC. And I came to Sonoma partly as a fan and partly because I was looking for work and I really wanted to transition across to IndyCar. And I had big chats with Randy Bernard that weekend about moving over from Europe and coming over and doing IndyCar. And, for one reason or another, it didn't work out. And then I got a wonderful offer from NBC Sports to carry on doing F1 with them. And, it didn't work then. But here we are 13 years later. And it's all come good, man. So we get to go play IndyCars. I can't wait.
I'm so happy. Let me say a quick thank you to our partners of the show, the Justice Brothers and TorontoMotorsports.com and Crazy Canadians at the Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. And then also a quick little plug for our own, the PruittStore.com, where I'm almost being overgrown by my motor racing memorabilia collection. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the cable show Hoarders, but I am perennially afraid that I'm going to get the knock on the door and open it, and there's going to be a big light in my face and camera saying, Pruitt, it's your time. So trying to sell as much of my old stuff that I've bought that I'm willing to let go of. Going to do more of that here. But anyways, got to buy my wife and I a house here. So yeah, the PruittStore.com, trying to sell as much as I can. But all that stuff aside, tell me about this reaction you have seen now that we have a couple of weeks behind it. Heck, I guess we're coming up on a month of the announcement of yourself, the Mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, our guy Tony Bell, who our hearts definitely go out to him, losing his homes in the fire here in California. But we have the broadcast team announced. We know pit lane team will get announced here soon. Tell me what it's been like over the last month or so. A little bit of time and perspective. The reaction you've seen from fans, from drivers, you name it. I think this has been a universally received home run, but what are you feeling on the other side?
It's been wild, mate. It's been lovely. It's been so lovely. The reaction has been so warm and so welcoming, and it has I was going to say exceeded expectations, but I never had any expectations. I was deeply worried and really conscious that I was taking a massive step into a new world, and I wasn't sure how I would be received. And we haven't done a broadcast yet, so let's keep the champagne on ice. It's been really positive, and there's just been this amazing outpouring from the fans, which I've been incredibly grateful for, from the teams, from the drivers. So many of them have reached out and messaged me and, DM'd me through social media. I think the first was Scotty Mack. Or it might have been Marcus Ericsson who sent me a message and said, are these rumors true? Are you coming over? And I was like, don't tell anyone. But yeah, it's happening. And he was like, oh my God, you used to commentate on me in GP2. This is going to be so much fun. And so it's been amazing. And, you know, it is a huge leap, and it is a huge change. And it wasn't the easiest decision. It was a fairly easy decision in terms of what do I want to do with my career. And this is an opportunity that I couldn't turn down and that I desperately wanted, but it wasn't an easy decision in terms of, well, how are people going to react and how are they going to receive me? You know, a British guy coming over to call an American championship. And I've been absolutely blown away, mate. Absolutely blown away. As I think I've said before, when I was weighing it up, I called two people, most importantly, to ask their opinions. The first was Lee Diffie, because Lee is a great friend and a mentor to me. And I asked him, A, do you think I can do it? Do you think I have the skill set? Do you think I'm going to be all right at this? And number two, do you mind if I even talk to the guys? This was really early on. I said, because if you have any issues with me even thinking about taking this job role, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to step on your toes, and I don't want to upset our friendship. And he was like, mate, you've absolutely got to. You love IndyCar, and IndyCar will love you, and you've got to do it, and you'll smash it. And yeah, mate, go have fun. And so for me, that felt like I was kind of taking the torch from Lee, and that meant a huge amount to me because he means so much to me. And then the other was Zach Brown, who obviously I've known for years through Formula One. Gave him a fairly rough ride last year in F1. Gave him a fair amount of crap about his strategy, his team strategy choices. But we've remained really, really good mates. And yeah, his response when I asked him, do you think IndyCar has the growth potential? And, everything that Fox are telling me, from what you're hearing, is it the same? Are they as serious about it as they sound? He just replied and told me it was something I absolutely had to do. So here we are, mate.
So speaking of our guy Diffie, IndyCar was the vehicle that got him to the U.S. Moved here. Great opportunity back calling Champ Car back in the day. Obviously went on great career at Speed/Fox, where we all got to know each other and work together. And now he's one of the cornerstones of NBC Sports across multiple properties. Where does this first year, at least, of calling IndyCar land for you, knowing that you aren't exactly young buck Lee Diffie, the early stages of his career and taking this big opportunity, uprooting and whatnot? Not that you're old, but you're well established, right? Far into your career. You're not at that age where you're like, sure, I'll do whatever, just give me the job. Got a family, obviously love your daughter like you wouldn't believe. You've got a full and rich life. You've lived for an incredibly long time in the UK. Are you doing tons of flights? Are you planning on staying here for any of the back-to-backs or renting an apartment in wherever? How do you blend a long-established home life and family with this new opportunity at a stage in your life where just uprooting immediately might not make total sense?
Well, my eldest daughter is nearly 15, so she's entering sort of exams in the UK, and my youngest is 18 months. And the idea of uprooting within the space of 6 weeks just felt a bit crazy. And the IndyCar schedule is intense, but it is also very condensed. So it's a 6-month calendar. There's 16 weekends within that, 17 races. Obviously, it's a bit more complex than that because you have, the full week of Indy 500 qualifying and everything around that. So I'm going to commute for year one. Just couldn't uproot the family that quickly, and gonna commute this year. I've managed to split it into 8 trips. Which, when you compare it with a Formula One calendar, is pretty easy, actually.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So yeah, I'm going to live in Indy in May, and bring my wife and my youngest daughter out with me for that. And then I think we're going to live somewhere in the US in July. I'm not sure where. Because obviously the calendar dots around quite a bit in July. So maybe Florida, maybe LA. I'm in LA at the moment. LA is always, well, I say always, it really feels like home for me. I actually only came to LA for the first time last year and just immediately felt at home and loved it. And yeah, so gonna commute, mate. Gonna see how that works, and then take a call on that for year 2 and year 3, and see where we end up. But in terms of where this sits for me, mate, this is an opportunity I never thought I'd have in my career. And it was, as I've said, the kind of thing that I couldn't turn down. The sort of thing that I desperately wanted to do. I think my favorite years of my career were the years where I was commentating GP2 and GP3. And, that was a decade ago. And, after that point, when I was working with NBC, they asked if I'd step away from that to really focus on the F1 pit reporting, which I did. And then moved to F1 in-house and did their stuff, and moved more into an anchor role, a presenter role, and had to move away from commentary. And through that time, Alex Jakes took over doing F2 and then became the lead F1 commentator on F1 TV, and is a good friend of mine, an incredible commentator, and somebody that I look up to tremendously. And so the opportunities were never going to open up, again, to do commentary, at F1 level. So the combination of getting the opportunity to come back to commentary, being able to do it for a championship that I love, that is the most exciting racing in the world, the fastest racing on earth, where you roll to green every Sunday and you genuinely don't know who's going to win, where passes are meaningful and plentiful. It was just a perfect opportunity. And then to be able to also, host the shows and be an integral and intrinsic part of a brand new broadcast with the weight that Fox is throwing behind it. What part of that doesn't appeal to anyone who loves broadcasting? It was just, it felt almost kind of too perfect, and it came around, and the negotiations and everything happened so quickly, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is like, A, this is real, and B, this is really happening. Like it's blown my mind that this opportunity has come up at this stage of my career. I've done, almost a quarter of a century in Formula One. I never thought this would happen. So yeah, I'm very humbled by the opportunity, and I can't wait to get started.
Here's the thing that I love most about your joining us for IndyCar and embracing this thing that you've loved and want it to make it yours and will be making it yours. Your decision here is making IndyCar yours as well. And none of this is said in a critical way towards our guy Diffie or anyone else. Diffie hosts IndyCar races, IMSA races, track and field, Olympics, you name it. That's the thing he's done for many years. Hadn't really been able to focus on a single sport. You coming here to focus solely on IndyCar. I'm not saying you'll never say a word about Indy NXT or whatever, but I'm just saying your primary locked duty is IndyCar host, lead the broadcasts for Fox. I not only love that this is your singular task and goal, but you are our first, even though you've been covering F1 and F2 for a million years and all that, you're our first new era, new media leader of a broadcast. Hosted your own familiar, been in the podcast space for a really long time. Digital side, leading F1 for many, many, many years with their digital content. Author of books, highly creative books, whether it is more of a standard interview, straight up words style, more of a hybrid, I don't want to say straight comic book, but of that mindset, highly artistic, creative, drawn component as well. I'm not trying to blow smoke here, mate, but I'm just sharing that when I think of someone who could step into IndyCar, lead its broadcasts with a brand new television partner who we all believe is going to lift IndyCar in ways I haven't seen since I was in it and around it in the 1990s and early 2000s when it was still a raging monster. I can't think of a better person to lead who is physically young and of a younger generation, but has been so heavily plugged into all the things and all the ways new fans, newer fans, even some older fans would connect through all the various media platforms you've engaged in professionally and even just on a personal level. Speak to that, man, because I think you are the perfect guy for the job, who's going to have a sensibility and energy that feels right for so many people because you've been connecting with them through all the various ways most people connect these days for many, many years.
Thanks, man. I'm not going to disagree with you, obviously. I'll send a check in the post and employ you as my agent at some point if he ever gets sick and tired of me. Thank you. That means a huge amount. Listen, when I had the first conversations with Fox, what became immediately obvious was that we just aligned on everything that we wanted to do with the championship, the way in which we wanted to broadcast it, the way in which, and not just in terms of presentation style and commentary and how the shows were going to look, but where they were going to be broadcast, how they were going to be broadcast, how social media was going to be utilized, how Fox was going to go about their advertising platforms. And, you know, we've had the first examples of that over recent weeks, and in particular over the Super Bowl, we saw that very first, very public, very immersive, interaction with the potential and prospective new fan base. The objective from the outset is absolutely clear, and it is, not just to take it back to those 1990s heydays when, as you said, it was a monster, but to make it even bigger and even better and even more popular. And that's the goal, man. That's the goal. And when I sat there with Brad Zager and with Eric Shanks, and we had our first meeting, what they were saying was exactly what I was thinking. And then what I was saying was exactly what they were thinking. And everything just meshed perfectly. And again, it was just this immediate feeling of, when you meet someone that is just completely on your wavelength and understands you, and you finish each other's sentences, and you're completely talking the same language, and that was it from the first second. It was complete alignment. So yeah, man, it's really, really exciting times, and I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg in terms of what Fox are going to put into this, what they want to get out of it, and what they want to do with IndyCar. And I think it's a hugely, hugely exciting time. We need to get beyond the thing that has held IndyCar back, whether it was the split or whatever. It's like, that is generations ago now. We have to move beyond the things that have held it back. And, Formula One went through a very similar period of soul searching around a decade ago, where, it was a big sport and it was a popular sport, but it was still trying to fight against a perception of where it had been and the problems it had been through in the late 90s, early 2000s, where people just assumed it was boring because Michael Schumacher won everything. And then, Sebastian Vettel won everything, and then Lewis Hamilton won everything, and how do you get it back to being in an exciting place? And I think IndyCar, it is in a similar place where people either don't know what it is, or they don't know where they can find it, or they don't know that it's different to Formula One, or they don't understand how it's different to NASCAR, or all of these little hurdles, but each one of them sort of merges into the other to then create an almost an obstacle that is almost impossible to overcome. And so that is our job now, is to break that wall down and to show it in all its glory, because it's almost motorsport's best kept secret, because it doesn't matter which championship you work in. I challenge anybody that works in motorsport, whether you work in Formula One or endurance or it doesn't matter what championship you work in. Everyone agrees that the racing in IndyCar is incredible and probably the best in the world. For my money, it is the best in the world. But no one ever says it, because you can't say that, because then you're talking down your own championship. We can say that, and we should be saying that out loud. You love Formula One? Cool. When you've watched the Grand Prix, have a couple of hours break, then come and watch an IndyCar race, because I guarantee you will love it. You will love every single second of it, because everything that you love about Formula One is also on display in IndyCar, except that in IndyCar, the driver makes the difference. And any driver can win when you roll to green. And that's the key thing here, is these incredible drivers, these incredible athletes who we have a responsibility to hero and to make as popular and as well known as the greatest sports people in the United States of America, and to get people to care about them one way or another, whether you love a driver or you hate a driver. We want you to care about these guys when they roll to green. And that's going to be our job, is getting people to be invested and to care and to take this thing back to where it should be, which is the most popular form of motorsport in the United States. That's what I want to do with it. That's why I've come on board. That's my goal. If it was, we just, maybe, we want to think about maybe, doubling the viewership or whatever, that's not a goal. I want to make it the most popular form of motorsport in America, because that's what I think it deserves to be.
Amen. Also, great recognition there. It's a generational thing. I am 1,000% guilty of this. Recognized this a couple years ago and have really tried to dial back. Sounds like the police are coming after me here. I don't know if you're getting that on the microphone, but NASCAR sucks. Formula One sucks. Name whatever it is. It's terrible. Used to be, again, a very generational thing to be extremely tribal with motorsport. Granted, that applies in all sports and exists today. Name whatever it is that you love, whether it's football, soccer, whatever. Love this team, hate that team. Totally get it. That's what powers sports between the weekends, of folks hating on or loving on their thing. Not abnormal for that to be a function that has happened in motor racing as well. My type of racing is better than yours. But that recognition of, like, okay, yeah, that was really accepted for a long time. But I tell you, talking to a lot of new fans, Will, younger, very young fans, teens, early 20s and such in recent years, has really shown me that for those who are coming into the sport for the first time, of course, not everybody, but so many that I would come across at an IndyCar race, an IMSA race, wherever, be a fan of racing. And wouldn't see the reason to go tribal. And so I love that.
I think there is enough room in everyone's racing heart to love more than one championship. Why limit it? It's like falling in love. Here's an example, right? I grew up listening to the Beatles, and I love the Beatles. And for years, I refused to listen to the Beach Boys. I don't know why. I was just young and stupid. And then I hit my 30s, and I was on a plane and I watched the movie Love and Mercy with Paul Dano playing a young Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
And just completely fell in love with Pet Sounds, and then just for about 3 years just geeked out over Pet Sounds. And I'm like, why did I stop myself from listening to the Beach Boys? Why did I stop myself from listening to Pet Sounds? It's like, just because you love one artist, don't stop yourself from listening to all the other great artists that make that kind of music. And it's the same with racing. If you love racing, come and watch racing. You know, if you love Formula One, come and watch IndyCar. You don't have to watch either or. You can watch both. And luckily, we're over here in the United States. You know, the Grand Prix are done by lunchtime, and then you get to come and watch your IndyCar races. There's more than enough space. There's more than enough love, I think, and as I said, space in your heart if you're a lover of motor racing, you know, to watch both. And that's just kind of my that's my take on it.
Amen. All right. Last thing for you, then I need to let you go get to work, and you got a lot of work to do here before flying home. So I just launched my first team season preview of the year today in AJ Foyt, and I got more work of my own to do. So hopefully before you and I get to St. Pete, maybe we can jump on the phone again and do some actual,
let's get to double figures.
Let's that's right. This is number 9. We're gonna get to 10.
My God, we're going to be on 50 by the end of the season, aren't we?
And I will love every single moment of it, mate. Let's talk about, what's happening next week? Teams are going to Sebring for a 2-day test, and they're going to get ready for the new season. And it's really, for some, the one big main test. And Dale Coyne was just telling me, I think we're going to have our second driver and engineer signed by the end of the week. So we'll probably know who they are before Sebring, and that's great. But they get to go to Sebring, Will, and test and prepare for the new season. How does a new broadcast team do this? We know Hinch and Towney have chemistry, right? Hopefully that'll get tuned up a little bit, fewer knockdown, drag out arguments. But hey, you're leading a new machine here. You don't have, granted, I guess the three of you could go to Sebring and pretend to call hours and hours and hours of practice, which would be pretty boring, and testing and whatnot. But you don't want to show up, I'm sure, at St. Pete, having never called a live session with your new teammates. What kind of testing does Fox's new IndyCar broadcast team, how do you do that so you show up ready to win?
So I think I'm kind of approaching it like Prema is approaching their rookie season in IndyCar, which is a hell of a lot of preparation. I spend about 6 or 7 hours a day sat in front of my computer working through my own stat sheets and going through all of the data and all of the history of every single driver so that I know absolutely everything that I can. I am watching every single race that I can. I am reading every single book that I can. And am I going to be 100% on it from the first race? No, I'm not. And I'm very aware of that. But you know me, I am a student of the history of our sport because I think that is an incredible lens through which to tell stories and to compare what we're seeing on track today with the greatest who've ever done it. But you're right, we need some track time. So that's the reason I'm in LA at the moment. Me, Hinch, Townsend, we're all going to be in Fox tomorrow. And we're going to be calling some old races. We don't know which ones yet. They're just going to throw some races in front of us, and we're going to call them. So we're going to find our way. I'm not Diffie. I can't call races like Lee or like Kevin, who did such a wonderful job in the latter half of last season as well. A brilliant commentator in his own right. And I can only be me. And Townsend and Hinch can only be them, and they have their very unique style. So we're going to spend the vast majority of tomorrow working out, how that booth is going to work. And it's really small things that you need to learn in a commentary box that make a huge difference. It's things like knowing when somebody has a certain look on their face, or when they put their hand up in a certain way that you know they need to get in immediately, or it's learning the rhythm of someone else's voice when they're naturally coming to the end of what they say. When can you jump in? When should you jump in? When can you interrupt? When should you just let it kind of roll out and let them finish their thought? All those kind of things. It's like being in a band. Oasis are just getting back together again. And, Liam and Noel Gallagher, are brothers and have played more concerts than they can probably remember for a variety of reasons. But they are going to need to rehearse with the new band that they will put together before they go on this world tour next year. They're not just going to go out, in Manchester and London and play their first gig having not rehearsed. And so this is what we're doing tomorrow. Before we get up on the biggest stage of all, we will get into a studio and we will pick up our instruments and we'll jam. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go and have a jam session tomorrow and hopefully come up with some new songs.
Oh, I love the Oasis reference and the Gallagher brother reference, because you've just given me this great mental imagery of you and Townie and James just punching the hell out of each other in the booth. So
wearing a parka.
If we hear something that just sounds like that for a while, we'll know you guys are having an Oasis moment and knocking each other around.
Oh, and this is the thing, right? If you want to know how much IndyCar means to me and how much this job means to me, I had tickets to go and see Oasis on the tour, but it is a race weekend, so there will be a lot of Oasis lyrics, I'm sure, thrown into the broadcast that weekend. But I have sacrificed my seat at the Oasis gig.
Will Buxton, you're not a wonder.
It doesn't get bigger than that.
Wonder wall of a human being, Will Buxton. So, oh my God, I worked in a bad dad joke to close, mate. Again, I'm so happy, not just for you. I'm always going to be real. I'm happy for us. And it's not as if I wasn't happy with our guy Diff, right? That's our guy. That's our quarterback there. But with this change, perfect guy to drop in. Your energy, not just during the broadcasts, but what folks will feel through those digital outlets between events, like, this is what you're here for. This is your passion. And I'm so happy we are going to benefit from this. I have no doubt. I'm working on a story right now. Got a team owner who's calling here shortly, one of many, helping me with insights on what do you think the ratings increase is going to be, the audience size increase. The projections are really impressive, not just double digit, but like serious double digit. How that helped them in selling more sponsorship, more B2B, more you name it. And it's a love fest right now, and I think it's all justified. So reason to be happy. So thankful we got you.
Thank you, mate. And listen, thank you for your support and your friendship and your guidance, because I know I wouldn't be here without it. I want to thank all the fans who've reached out and have said such lovely things. I want to thank the teams and the drivers for being so welcoming. I understand the responsibility of the role that I've taken, and I just hope I don't let you guys down.
Is this where I tell folks that among those 8 previous visits, one of them is the series that teams told me to stop doing because they wouldn't make their drivers available? Who the hell are you? Remember we did a Who the hell are you, Will Buxton?
Yeah.
In the final question. Something about being sentenced to death, and if you had to choose between death by extreme cheeseburger consumption or something else. We'll just leave that there. If you want to have fun, go find that. We'll leave the rest. But thanks again, brother, and
always
can't wait.